Okay, this is just a quick rundown of how I have made my corrective joint systems for the shoulder area. I want to add a couple other things, and also I want to change the placement of a couple of these joints. But ignore these ones on the left. That's an old version that isn't even skinned. This is the current version, and it is skinned. So basically, how it works is you have these joints placed in different areas that are basically gonna help to create the movements that your muscles would create in those areas. Um, so there's one here for the traps. There's one back here for like your scapula or like your back muscles. Um, there's two for the pecs over here. And this one is actually one that I don't like the joint placement of. I want to move it up a little bit more, as well as in towards the middle. And I'll show you why in a little bit. But basically, how they work is here's the RK joints for the arm, and these joints are basically all um, they all have an aim constraint towards um, a locator here that is just a little bit down the arm because your muscles don't attach right at where the bone hinges; they attach just a little bit below. Um, and so these are always aiming down there, and they also have a child joint that's partway down, um, and a child joint that is actually um, attached to the locator there. That last one is not necessary to the system. It's not skinned. It just helps visually, I think. Um, and so you have this joint here in the middle that has a point constraint between this base joint and the end joint. It could be between the base joint and the locator um, if I wanted to, and it would work just the same. But since I'm keeping those extra end joints there, I just figured I'd have it in between those. And so on these constraints, I set them to different ratios based off of what I want. So for instance, this one is like, I think a 1 to 2 ratio um, for this one. So it's like a third of the way of the distance there. This one's a 1 to 1 ratio, it's half the distance. I think these two are also half the distance. Um, oh, you know what? I think this one's actually 2 to 5 or something like that. Anyways, basically what these ones do is, so these ones are always aiming towards this one. So for example, if I move the arm up this way, those all kind of aim there. Um, and those move like that. And then what these ones do is, as this rotates, the distance between this point and this joint, or this point and this joint, the distance between this point and the base joints is lengthening or shortening, depending on where it's moving to. Like as you can see here, the distance there is really shortening quite a bit. And the issue with that is if I were to just have these base joints with the aim constraints, um, there would be a lot of like severe pinching as things really got close. Um, because this, if they were just skinned to this and to this, then they'd kind of be sticking over here or right over here, and so they would get some severe pinching. But instead, I have these joints in the middle. And so you give a little bit of weight to these ones and also to these ones. And these ones, because they are always a certain uh, distance in between the base and the end, as the end moves closer, this one will also move closer, just at a slightly slower rate. And so it allows you to skin it where you, instead of having things sort of pinch this way and that way, you have this middle one that pulls these things in slightly as they rotate, and so it helps to spread out the skinning a bit and keep things from pinching so bad. Um, Realistically, if I wanted to, I could instead of having these like mid joints, I could just add the skinning weight to these end joints, um, because those ones move the full distance, so I could just assign a smaller weight to it. But the reason I'm not doing that is there's two reasons. The first one is that I don't like having joints in the same spot, so I try to avoid it as much as I can, because when they're in the same spot, it complicates mirroring, and that just gets really annoying at a certain point. And the second reason is because it makes the skinning a little bit easier because I don't have to be so careful about the weights. I can assign slightly stronger weights to them rather than having to keep everything like really light and airbrushed. Um, and so that's why I do that way. So basically, with all those things combined, it helps to create